The grand chandelier cast fractured light across the polished marble of the Whitfield Estate ballroom, a dazzling reflection of Charleston's elite gathered in glittering gowns and tailored tuxedos. The air buzzed with polite laughter and the low hum of champagne glasses, a delicate pretense of civility masking the undercurrents of rivalry and gossip that flowed through the city's wealthiest families. In the center of this glittering sea stood Eleanor Whitfield, a woman whose presence commanded attention and fear alike. Her sharp eyes scanned the room, calculating, ready to strike, and tonight her target was unmistakable Amara Collins, the young woman who dared to capture her son Sebastian's heart. Amara stood near the edge of the ballroom, her hands lightly clutching the soft fabric of her dark dress, a striking but simple choice that, in Eleanor's eyes, marked her as an intruder into a world she could never belong to. She kept her posture straight, her head held high, but the tension in her shoulders betrayed the storm inside. Eleanor's gaze landed on her like a predator focusing on prey. With a deliberate step forward, Eleanor's voice rang out above the subtle strains of the string quartet, sharp and icy. "Amara Collins," she said, every syllable dripping with disdain. "I never thought I would witness such presumption in one so unrefined." A hush fell across the room. Conversations died mid-sentence. Eyes flickered with curiosity and barely concealed delight at the drama unfolding. Amara's pulse quickened, but she did not retreat. Instead, she straightened, meeting Eleanor's cold stare with quiet defiance. "Mrs. Whitfield," she said, her voice steady, though a tremor betrayed her nerves, "I love Sebastian. My intentions have always been honest." A few guests muttered under their breath, clearly amused or scandalized by the direct confrontation. Eleanor laughed, a harsh, brittle sound that cut through the murmurs. "Love?" she echoed, her tone dripping with mockery. "Love? My son deserves refinement, pedigree, legacy, not someone who washes floors and serves silver merely because it suits them." Her hand gestured sharply toward the uniformed servants passing trays, as if Amara's presence somehow connected her to the domestic staff. Among those watching, whispers rippled like a wave. Some tried to shield their expressions, others leaned forward, hungry for the spectacle. Eleanor's ally, Charlotte Langley, a woman with icy composure and a reputation for social manipulation, moved closer to Eleanor, nodding imperceptibly. The plan was unfolding exactly as she and Eleanor had orchestrated. Amara, they believed, would falter under pressure, her dignity stripped in public view, and the scandal would ripple through the Whitfield name, reaffirming Eleanor's unchallenged authority. A subtle movement caught Amara's attention. Clara Benton, a longtime servant with soft eyes and a gentle presence, brushed past Eleanor and Charlotte, offering Amara a whispered warning. "Watch yourself," Clara murmured, barely audible over the gasps and hushed chatter. "They've set this trap carefully. Don't let them see fear." Amara nodded imperceptibly, swallowing the knot forming in her throat. She knew the stakes were higher than ever. Tonight was not just a battle of words. It was a test of her resilience against a family intent on erasing her from Sebastian's life. Eleanor stepped even closer, the air around her taut with hostility. "I refuse to see my son tied to someone whose ambitions are transparent," she declared, her hand suddenly seizing the corner of Amara's dark dress. With a swift motion, she ripped at the fabric, tearing a visible strip down the side, revealing the delicate lace beneath. A collective gasp erupted. Shock-painted faces. A few looked away, unable to witness the cruelty so openly displayed. Amara froze, but not in submission. Her hands lifted instinctively to hold the fabric together, her heart pounding, her mind racing for composure. Sebastian's voice cut through the tension, calm but laced with urgency. "Mother, stop," he demanded, stepping between Eleanor and Amara. "This is not the way. She is not your enemy." The room fell silent again, all eyes on the trio. Eleanor's face contorted with anger, yet her composure remained remarkably intact, a mask of dignity barely concealing her fury. "Enemy," she spat. "She is a threat, Sebastian, a threat to everything we've built, everything I've fought to protect. This is not about cruelty. It is about preservation." Amara looked up at Sebastian, her eyes shimmering with both fear and determination. "I am not here to take what isn't mine," she said, her voice firm despite the tremor. "I love you. Nothing else matters more than truth between us." Her words hung in the air, challenging not only Eleanor but the judgmental crowd that had gathered, waiting for her humiliation to unfold. She refused to shrink, refused to let the room define her worth. Eleanor's lips pressed into a thin line. She realized, in that moment, that Amara's spirit was unyielding. Each whispered accusation, every pointed stare, and each calculated move would not topple her as easily as Eleanor had hoped. Charlotte, sensing the shift, adjusted her strategy with a slight smirk, retreating slightly to observe the chaos while Eleanor fumed. The whispers of the crowd became a chorus of divided opinions, some condemning Eleanor's behavior, others delighting in the spectacle of a wealthy matriarch asserting control. Clara, quietly blending back into the background, offered Amara a subtle nod. The small gesture carried reassurance and a promise of guidance through the treacherous waters ahead. Amara, drawing a deep breath, allowed a fleeting flash of resolve to replace the panic in her chest. She knew the public humiliation was only the opening move, the first stone in a cascade of trials designed to break her. But she would not yield, and she would not allow fear to define her future with Sebastian. Sebastian took her hand, pressing it gently as he spoke, his voice low yet insistent. "They will try everything to sway me, but I will not be moved by manipulation or spectacle. You have my word." His gaze burned with unwavering loyalty, a stark contrast to the venomous energy radiating from his mother. Eleanor's eyes narrowed, the power struggle intensifying in silence. She realized, perhaps too late, that the young woman she had intended to crush might be the one shaping the narrative now. The rest of the evening unfolded in a tense symphony of whispers, calculated glances, and subtle power plays. Eleanor and Charlotte returned to the fringes of the ballroom, recalibrating their schemes while Amara and Sebastian moved through the crowd, hands tightly clasped, their unity a quiet defiance against the scrutiny of Charleston's elite. Each step, each polite exchange, was a statement. Amara would not be diminished, and Sebastian's devotion was resolute. As the night wore on, Eleanor's fury simmered, a slow burn that promised the next chapter of this social battle would be even more ruthless. Amara, guided by Clara's quiet counsel and bolstered by Sebastian's unwavering commitment, held her ground with grace and tenacity. She had faced the public storm, endured the tear in her dress and the piercing gazes, and had emerged unbroken. This was only the beginning, but already, the rules of engagement had shifted. The mother of a billionaire had revealed her wrath, yet her intended victim had shown a strength that would not be easily forgotten. The days that followed the ballroom incident unfolded like a meticulous chess game, each move calculated, each word a potential weapon. Eleanor Whitfield refused to relent, her determination hardened into a mission. Amara Collins must be exposed, her presence in Sebastian's life eradicated, and her supposed ambitions laid bare for all to see. She enlisted Charlotte Langley fully into her campaign, a partnership of cunning and precision. Together, they whispered into the right ears, arranged encounters engineered to humiliate, and curated accidental discoveries that painted Amara as manipulative and opportunistic. Every social gathering became a potential battlefield, every conversation a trap for Amara to stumble into. Amara, however, was not without allies. Clara Benton, ever watchful, provided quiet guidance, teaching her to anticipate the Whitfield's maneuvers. She cautioned Amara about overheard whispers in the garden, the carefully planted rumors at brunches, and the subtle glances that carried judgment more cutting than words. "They will try to make you doubt yourself," Clara said one afternoon, as they walked through the estate's hedge-lined courtyard. "But keep your focus on what you know to be true, Sebastian's love and your integrity. Never let them see fear." Amara nodded, committing each instruction to memory, practicing poise and measured responses until they became second nature. Her resolve hardened as she realized this was not just a test of affection, but of identity. Meanwhile, Sebastian found himself at the heart of a storm he could neither evade nor fully control. Board members at Whitfield Enterprises began subtle interventions, hinting at the dangers of scandal, the importance of maintaining social appearances, and the potential risks to the company's image. Sebastian, One board member, an aging man with sharp spectacles, warned discreetly, "Public opinion is everything. The world will talk, and the wrong association could damage the family legacy. Consider carefully." Sebastian's brow furrowed, torn between his love for Amara and the expectations embedded in every corner of his upbringing. Doubt crept in, fueled by the relentless whisper campaigns orchestrated by his mother and Charlotte. Eleanor, sensing this hesitation, escalated her tactics. At a high society luncheon, she arranged for Amara to accidentally meet with influential figures who had been subtly coached to criticize her manners, her education, and even her background. Eleanor's voice remained polite, almost motherly on the surface, but her words carried the knife's edge of judgment. "Oh, Amara, I wasn't sure you understood the proper protocol for such a luncheon," she said, a faint smile masking the barbed remark. Each word aimed to unseat her, to shake her confidence in the eyes of those whose approval mattered to Sebastian. Yet Amara met each trial with careful composure. She remembered Clara's advice: silence can be strength, patience a weapon, and dignity a shield. During the luncheon, when a particularly haughty socialite commented on Amara's unfamiliarity with etiquette, Amara responded with measured politeness. "Thank you for your guidance. I am still learning and hope to improve." The remark, though soft-spoken, contained no apology, no sign of submission, only acknowledgement and confidence. Observers noticed her calm defiance, a contrast to Eleanor's overt aggression. Murmurs of admiration mingled with speculation. Could this young woman withstand the scrutiny? Behind closed doors, the tension between Sebastian and his mother intensified. Eleanor was pressed, relentless, and persuasive. "Sebastian, do you really intend to risk everything for her?" she asked sharply one evening, her eyes like flint. "Your reputation, our legacy, our entire social standing, it's all on the line. Look around you. Society will never accept this." Sebastian ran a hand through his hair, conflicted. "Mother, I love her. It is not about legacy or appearances. It's about the truth. I cannot betray what I feel." Eleanor's lips pressed into a thin line. The fight was not only about Amara. It was about control, authority, and the boundaries of loyalty. Charlotte, observing from the shadows, began to arrange the next phase of their scheme, a staged incident at a charity gala. She recruited a few influential attendees to make subtle, suggestive comments, planting doubt about Amara's intentions. They whispered about ambition, social climbing, and subtle manipulation, each insinuation calculated to erode Sebastian's confidence. The event was designed to make Amara appear unworthy, a careful orchestration meant to sway public opinion and influence Sebastian's perception simultaneously. Amara, guided by Clara, anticipated the moves. Before the gala, Clara handed her a small note. "Trust your instincts. Watch the body language, the pauses in conversation, the half-smiles. That is where truth hides." Amara studied the patterns, observing Eleanor's strategic positioning and Charlotte's subtle hand gestures. She began to see the game for what it truly was, a battle of perception, one that required clarity, patience, and courage to navigate. At the gala, the social undercurrents hit full force. Eleanor and Charlotte executed their plan flawlessly, orchestrating conversations and glances that implied Amara's intentions were self-serving. Yet Amara met each scenario with grace, refusing to flinch under the veiled accusations. Sebastian, watching closely, began to see the contrast between the overt malice directed at her and her steadfast composure. Doubt lingered in his mind, but admiration grew, tempered by a recognition that love required resilience against such forces. Even as Eleanor attempted to manipulate public perception, cracks began to show in her carefully constructed narrative. Guests whispered about her excessive aggression, noting Amara's calm and articulate responses. Charlotte's subtle manipulations, while precise, could not fully mask Eleanor's fury, which only highlighted the contrast between mother and daughter-in-law to be. The tension escalated in a delicate dance of appearances, each side maneuvering, each waiting for the other to falter. Late into the evening, Amara found a brief moment with Sebastian. Their hands met, and no words were needed to convey trust and solidarity. The world outside their small bubble remained a battlefield, but in that instant, The strength of their connection shone brighter than the manipulations surrounding them. Clara, standing nearby with quiet vigilance, allowed herself a faint smile. Her guidance was bearing fruit, and the young woman she had warned now seemed capable of navigating even the most treacherous social waters with dignity and courage. The days turned into weeks, and the games continued. Eleanor and Charlotte refined their strategies, Amara adapted, and Sebastian's loyalty and judgment were tested repeatedly. Each carefully plotted social trial, each whisper and insinuation, pushed all three toward a climax that would demand not just strategy, but heart, courage, and unyielding love. The stage was set for the inevitable confrontation, a moment where the layers of deceit, ambition, and truth would collide with irrevocable force, shaping the course of their lives in ways none could fully predict. The night of the Whitfield annual gala arrived with a tension that clung to the air like a dense fog. The estate, resplendent with gold-trimmed walls, glittering chandeliers, and a sea of elegantly dressed guests, vibrated with whispered anticipation. It was the event of the season, and everyone knew that the unresolved conflict between Eleanor Whitfield and Amara Collins would reach its crescendo here. The crowd was a carefully curated mix of Charleston's elite, some loyal to the Whitfield legacy, others simply drawn to the spectacle of wealth, power, and scandal. Eleanor, poised as ever, moved through the room like a predator, her eyes scanning for signs of weakness in her young rival. Charlotte Langley followed with calculated steps, the subtle curl of her lips betraying a satisfaction born of anticipation. Amara entered the grand ballroom with measured confidence, her gown flowing gracefully, her posture upright, and her eyes scanning the sea of opulent faces for Sebastian. She felt Clara's reassuring presence nearby, a steady anchor amid the storm. "Remember, Amara," Clara whispered softly. "They cannot touch what is unshakable. Hold your ground. Speak your truth." Amara nodded, letting the words seep into her resolve. She had faced the harshest whispers, endured Eleanor's fury, and navigated the labyrinth of social traps. Tonight was not about proving herself to them, it was about claiming her place with Sebastian, unshaken and dignified. Sebastian appeared just as Eleanor initiated the first move. He came from the grand staircase, his presence commanding attention as he approached Amara, eyes locked on hers. Eleanor, sensing her opportunity, stepped forward, her voice cutting through the ambient music. "Sebastian, everyone deserves to know the truth. Do you not see what she's doing?" She gestured subtly toward Amara, implying deception. Gasps rippled through the crowd. The elite leaned forward, sensing drama and anticipation. Charlotte, with her typical precision, whispered to a few influential guests, carefully suggesting Amara's ambitions might not be pure. Amara met Eleanor's accusations with calm, her voice clear and steady. "I have done nothing to deceive anyone," she said, holding Sebastian's gaze. "My love for Sebastian is genuine. It has never been about social standing, wealth, or power. It is about truth, trust, and commitment." The words resonated with a sincerity that was impossible to fabricate. A hush fell over the room. Whispers of doubt and judgment faded as Amara's composure and honesty carved a path through the tense atmosphere. Eleanor, refusing to yield, escalated her tactics. With a quick motion, she pulled at a decorative part of Amara's gown, attempting a public humiliation similar to the one at the previous event. This time, however, Amara anticipated the move. With a swift adjustment, she corrected the fabric, her movements graceful, and turned the act into a display of poise. The crowd reacted differently this time. Admiration mingled with shock, as they witnessed a young woman withstand deliberate cruelty with elegance. Eleanor's fury burned visibly, her calculated control slipping as she realized her schemes might be losing their power. Charlotte, noticing the shift, tried to intervene, signaling allies to restart subtle murmurs among the guests, attempting to cast suspicion on Amara's character. Yet, Sebastian stepped forward, placing a protective hand lightly on Amara's shoulder. "Enough," he said, his voice unwavering, loud enough for the room to hear. "I see the attempts to manipulate, but I also see the truth. Amara has shown nothing but integrity. It is time we stop judging based on fear and assumption." The statement drew attention, creating a pivot point in the evening. Guests paused, reassessing the situation, many leaning in with curiosity to witness the unfolding resolution. Amara, feeling the weight of the moment, lifted her chin and spoke with conviction. Tonight, you can choose to continue spreading falsehoods and allowing prejudice to dictate your opinions. Or you can see what is right in front of you: love, honesty, and courage. Her eyes swept across the room, resting on Eleanor's sharply glancing gaze, then turning to Sebastian with an intensity that made it impossible for him to doubt his own feelings. Her voice, firm and unwavering, reverberated with a quiet power that no whisper campaign could diminish. Sebastian's heart swelled with resolve. The uncertainty, the pressure, and the manipulations could no longer sway him. "Amara," he said, stepping closer, his hand finding hers, "I choose you. Against lies, against fear, against every manipulation and doubt, they will not define us. I will stand with you." The words were decisive, imbued with love and commitment. A ripple of astonishment and applause spread through the ballroom, and for the first time that evening, Eleanor's influence over the SOC, why unreadable, displayed a flicker of incredulity and suppressed rage. Her carefully built network of influence and whispered schemes had been countered by a young woman's courage and a man's unwavering loyalty. Charlotte's lips pressed into a thin line, her plans disrupted, her composed facade showing cracks. The room, sensing the triumph of genuine emotion over manipulation, murmured in admiration and disbelief. Guests who had once been poised to judge Amara now found themselves captivated by her dignity and resolve. In the aftermath of the confrontation, Clara stepped forward, offering a warm, encouraging smile to Amara. "You've held your ground beautifully," she said softly, as the pressure of the night began to ease. "Never forget, true strength lies in patience and truth." Amara nodded, the tension melting slightly as Sebastian entwined their fingers, reaffirming the bond that had withstood calculated cruelty, judgment, and societal expectation. They moved together through the crowd, a united front that exuded both intimacy and quiet defiance, a testament to their shared resilience. Eleanor retreated toward a quieter corner, her fury simmering into a reluctant acknowledgement of the outcome. She realized that wealth, influence, and meticulously orchestrated schemes could not always triumph over love and integrity. Charlotte, equally subdued, recognized that the narrative they had attempted to shape was irreparably shifted by the courage and composure of Amara Collins and the unwavering support of Sebastian Whitfield. The gala, meant to be a stage for domination and control, had instead become a celebration of authenticity and emotional truth. By the night's end, the Whitfield Annual Gala had witnessed a transformation not in the decor or attire, but in the hearts and minds of those present. Amara and Sebastian's unity had withstood every orchestrated attack, every calculated whisper, every attempt to undermine their bond. The lesson was clear: love grounded in truth, patience, and mutual respect could rise above even the most formidable opposition. Eleanor's attempts at social manipulation, once potent and feared, had been rendered powerless by the strength of genuine human connection. As the guests began to disperse, conversations shifted from judgment to admiration. People spoke quietly of Amara's poise, Sebastian's loyalty, and the courage it took to face relentless social pressure. Clara's quiet pride in her protégé was unmistakable. She knew the trials they had faced were only the beginning of a life together shaped by resilience, trust, and unwavering love. The Whitfield family dynamics had shifted irreversibly. Sebastian had chosen love over fear, truth over control, and authenticity over societal expectation. The city's elite would remember this night not just for the glittering chandeliers or extravagant gowns, but for a love that defied manipulation and flourished despite adversity. In the following weeks, Charleston society adjusted to the reality of Amara and Sebastian's relationship. Eleanor, constrained by the undeniable public perception of her failed manipulations, retreated into a quieter, contemplative stance, while Charlotte recalibrated her alliances, recognizing that not all battles could be won through strategy alone. Amara, guided by Clara's wisdom and buoyed by Sebastian's unwavering devotion, continued to navigate high society with grace, proving her worth not through ambition or scheming, but through integrity, empathy, and love. Their story became a whispered legend, a narrative repeated at gatherings and social circles. A young woman's courage, a man's loyalty, and the triumph of genuine love over manipulation and prejudice. Moral lesson: Amara and Sebastian's journey reminds us that love, patience, and courage can overcome the harshest trials, even when faced with wealth, power, and manipulation. True strength lies in holding to integrity and trust, refusing to let others dictate your worth or sway your heart. Every challenge they endured was met with resilience, empathy, and unwavering commitment, showing that authenticity shines brighter than deception. Even in moments of doubt, clarity, communication, and faith in one another create unbreakable bonds. Remember, it's okay to feel fear, but bravery grows when we face it with dignity. Trust, love, and truth are always worth fighting for always.